Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Accept, Then Achieve. This probably should have been episode 1. This is a key episode to this podcast that really gets into the heart of its message. So, a new year just started, 2024, and many people probably set resolutions and goals for themselves, most of which they might lose steam on in a couple of months or as the year goes on. How do you distinguish between healthy striving and self-expression versus unhealthy overachieving from a place of lack? How do you set and pursue meaningful goals without being attached to their outcomes to prove your worth? How do you strike a balance between productivity and rest, expansion and savoring wherever you are right now? There are so many opinions out there, so I'm just going to share what's worked for me and my clients. If you grew up in a high-pressure culture or background, there was probably a constant message that you needed to be a certain way in order to be acceptable, worthy, fit in, or belong to a society. This is true to a certain extent where morals are involved. You can't go around killing people, stealing, or vandalizing property. It is parents' jobs to teach, model, and give guidance to the kids so that they learn some of society's rules to maintain some sort of order. Beyond that, though, there are no hard or fast rules. Yes, it's expected that at some point you become your own person, independent, able to take care of yourself, feed, groom, clothe, bathe, walk, and house yourself. But actually, how this looks can vary, and you may be more naturally gifted at some of these than others. So what's the shame in sharing some of the responsibilities you have more challenges with, say, people you can choose to live with, for example? You can take turns cooking, cleaning the home, and share the costs and burdens of living. It's become so expected and bragged about now for people to live totally alone and do everything by themselves to be a success, as if it's stronger to not need any help. But that's just not the way humans work as tribal, interdependent creatures. Anyway, your high-pressure background will tell you that meeting your basic needs is not enough, that you have to make a certain amount of money to be successful, achieve a certain amount of recognition for yourself or your work, live in a certain place, own a certain kind of home of a certain size or quality, drive a certain kind of car, get married, have kids, have friends, etc., etc., etc. The more, the better, and frankly, it's exhausting to try to do it all. There will always be some trade-offs and sacrifices in life, at least in one lifetime, if you believe in multiple, as we simply have some limitations in our time and our energy. So you may be getting discouraged, especially the longer you've been trying to reach a particular goal. Say, getting married and having kids. I know this has been a big one for me, at age 35 now especially. So a first important step is just dislodging, even a little bit, your tight grip on these must-have goals of yours. I invite you to consider, number 1, what are the reasons behind why you wanted this goal? If you broke it down into as many components as you can, or thought about it in terms of your needs or what specifically excites you about it, please free flow write or journal about them until you can't think of anything more to say about it. And then 2, is there any wiggle room or flexibility at all for getting those components or needs met in other ways, in a combination of other ways, or perhaps considering some out-of-the-box ways? This helps to loosen the grip, even just a little, of needing this particular goal to happen in this particular way, or else life will suck. Oh gosh, it softens the black and white thinking of either I succeed or I fail, either I'm a winner or a loser, which never helps. It makes you feel like crap and can even hurt your motivation or be counterproductive. For example, for me, for marriage and starting my own family, the reasons that I want them specifically are companionship, stability, somewhere to belong, regular physical touch and comfort, emotional support, a legacy to leave behind after I die. But what are some other ways that I can find this belonging, support, companionship, and legacy? What about living in community with close friends, either in the same neighborhood, duplex buildings, co-living space, or even a large mansion? Or having a platonic marriage or life partnership or domestic partnership with a good friend? They still provide many, many perks of traditional married life. The reliability, the being a priority, security, sharing resources, taking care of each other when you're in need of help, someone to be your hospital companion or drive you to and from surgeries. And for leaving a legacy with kids, how about a legacy in all these other ways? What about the legacy of your work, your impact, your message, or the impact you have on all of your relationships, all the people you come into contact with? What about all the mentees or clients you deeply helped and whose lives you changed? How about pouring love and care into raising some fur babies and the satisfaction of teaching and nurturing them? If you are absolutely tied to leaving a genetic legacy, what about donating your sperm or egg, or having a child on your own with a donor? For the goal of wanting a comfortable, rich lifestyle, so many people just want money or want to become millionaires without realizing that many of the things they want, they can actually have access to now without needing tons of money. The really important things in life, love, connection, exploration, growth, the freedom to be yourself, can be accessed right now or in many other ways that don't require putting your nose to a grindstone for 40 years so you can finally enjoy your golden retirement. People, I love this quote, people don't want to be millionaires. They want to experience what they believe only millions can buy. They want to feel the feelings they think they will have when they become millionaires. But what if you could feel that way now without needing all that money? I'm not saying that money is absolutely not important. I'm just saying I think it's a bit overemphasized in our society. Has anyone here heard of the story of the Mexican fisherman? It's one of my favorites. So, in summary, a rich businessman stumbles upon this fisherman and they start chatting about their lives. The fisherman shares his daily schedule, sleeping in, waking up naturally, fishing for a few hours to bring in enough to support his family comfortably, taking a nap with his wife, playing with his kids, and dinner and music with friends. He says he's very happy and he has a full life. The businessman says, "Oh my gosh, what a waste. You should be fishing more and more hours to get a bigger boat, and then you can get more boats, and then you can sell more fish, and eventually build an entire empire of boats so you can make millions." Along each step of the way, the fisherman kept asking, "And then what?" Even when he was told about the money. He was like, "Millions, wow. But then what?" he asked. And the final answer the businessman gave, "Oh, so you can sell your business and retire to the countryside where you can sleep in, fish for a few hours, and spend time with your friends and family." A lot of times it comes full circle. The things we really want in this life, many of them are quite simple, and many are universal. We all want safety, belonging, love, purpose. There are so many ways to get there, and it doesn't have to rigidly fit into your idea of what you thought you absolutely wanted or needed in order to be happy or complete. Life can't be fully controlled. There is an element of uncertainty, always. And being too rigid sets us up for disappointment, shame, and even illness and disaster. How can you make little tweaks in your life now so that you can get more of your needs and wants met? or so that you can enjoy living the life you have and want now, and enjoy every step of the way there too, rather than putting it off until a mystical one day in the future. Money does provide some sense of security, but it tends to be overemphasized. In the end, it's just a placeholder, a representation of labor that you did or value that you gave that can be used later to trade in for something else. You will always have these skills within you to make more or directly trade it for something else. You have unique gifts that only you have and that you can do. You can trust yourself. Even if you become disabled or lose some skills, everything that you've learned and grown and trained up until that point is transferable, and you can and will figure something else out. Is money really even necessary for getting your basic needs met? What if you lived in an intentional community or non-capitalistic system, such as a Buddhist temple or monastery, where I've seen people live beautifully, sharing their gifts and helping one another? I confess it's still something I'm considering joining after trying it out for a month in Thailand. I think I can do more good and reach more people outside of the confines of that system, though. But I might decide later that I'd rather focus on depth, not breadth, in serving a community. Anyway, though, back to healthy striving. So after you've loosened your grip a little bit on certain goals, you allow more spaciousness into your life and the permission to just breathe, to just be in the world, and to be yourself. Allowing yourself to just exist will naturally allow random sparks of inspiration or motivation to come into your world, and following those will bring you joy and be pretty darn cool achievements. Following those natural nudges will feel fun along the way during the process, so that you're not so dead set on getting to the ultimate goal and miserable the whole way until you get there. Now, if you're super burned out or your mental well-being is not well, these sparks of inspiration may not come for a while until you've recovered to a healthier place. I'd say just keep being patient with yourself and do your best to rest and heal and give yourself that space and grace. And your natural passions and callings will surface at some point. So, some differences to be aware of between healthy striving versus overachieving. Number one, how rigid are you about your goals? Are you open to the little and big twists, turns, and tangents that pop up? Or do you have a death grip attachment to the outcome you want with little or no flexibility? Number two, how do you feel during the process of it? Do you feel purposeful, motivated, but relaxed? Are you having fun? Do you feel joy and enjoy the steps along the way? Versus, do you feel desperate, needy, impatient, panicky, super frustrated, angry, or even resentful that you're still not yet where you want to be? When you picture never reaching your goal, how do you feel about that? Number three, the thoughts that you're having about yourself as you're working towards them. Are you feeling like crap, beating yourself up, shaming yourself, telling yourself how awful you and your life are right now? Are you mean to yourself, bullying yourself like you may have been bullied by a caregiver, teacher, or friend from the past? Or are your thoughts more positive and optimistic, or more negative and pessimistic? Number four, how you view your goal. Do you basically trust that you are enough right now as you are? But sure, it'd be a fun and lovely bonus to add this goal too to your life, like a luscious dessert. But you are feeling nourished enough as you are now with your main meal, which is the internal world, healthy internal world and garden you created. Number 5, are you fantasizing about how much better you'll feel and how your life will be after you reach your goal? Just a reminder that research they found about hedonistic adaptation is that people bounce back to the same baseline levels of happiness and satisfaction within 2 years of any event, no matter how positive, like winning the lottery, or even negative, such as becoming disabled. Are you missing the present moment and all the goodness that is in your life right now because you're living in the future? Number 6, do you feel a lot of resistance when you try to reach for your goal? Does it feel like you have to force yourself to do it because your end goal matters above all else, but the process getting to it is yucky and icky? Very rarely can you have a happy ending to an unhappy journey, if you even get there, because oftentimes people burn out before they do if they keep trying to force it or whip themselves into doing the tasks or doing the steps. Or is it hard, but you can find some joy or fun in each step along the way and the entire process? So after you've distinguished what your achieving is about, and sometimes it's not so clear cut, what can you do about it to shift it to a more healthy and sustainable kind? Some tips. Number 1, find ways to feel good in your now, right now. What can you do today and even daily to care for yourself so that you feel more at peace and enough? Try to boost this feeling of enoughness. Learn to love where you are and what you have right here, right now. It's not being delusional if you look for the positives, because everyone in almost every situation has some positives. For example, if you've tried so many things and they didn't work, you've got nothing to lose, and you're in the perfect place to try again. And you likely have many lessons that you learned from those failures. Celebrate your wisdom that can only come from messiness and mistakes. It's actually just being more accurate, because our brains naturally have a negative filter and negativity bias because of our ancestors' primitive brains that were trained to look for and be hyper aware of dangers. It takes at least 5 positive things to balance out 1 negative thing, and sometimes the ratio is even 20-1. Find your enoughness now, with or without the goal you're wanting. Some favorite affirmations I came up with that work well for me personally, but please create your own and see what you can feel, what resonates for you. I write these on Post-its and I put them on my mirror, on my desk. One of some of these are, I made it. I am already a success. Nothing can take that away from me. There is no test. I'm on my own path and timing. It's impossible to compare mine with anyone else's. Number 2, dislodge your grip on your goals. What are you making them mean about you or others or life? And is that really true, or are there alternative possible explanations? Can you imagine someone else who would have a very different perspective on your goal? I was so gung-ho about marriage and kids and hated being single until I met a friend who really envied my life, who had a good marriage but envied my freedom and my ability and opportunity to get my first pick or first choice all the time in how I spent my time, which I realized is such a perk of being single. If I had a partner, I wouldn't get to spend all my holidays with my family and friends, or attend all the things that were meaningful to me, perhaps, or travel as freely without feeling guilty for enjoying myself if my partner was stuck. Number 3, loosen your grip even further by breaking down the components and needs of your goals that are meaningful and finding alternative ways to get them met, as we mentioned earlier in this episode. Number 4, connect frequently to your reasons for your goal and reevaluate often. I remind myself every day with a life purpose or why statement that's written, drawn, doodled, and hanging on my desk where I have to see it every day. I also wrote it in my phone and set some alarm reminders to look at that and tap into that feeling, especially when I'm in a slump or things feel hard. I have also reevaluated, and it's okay to change or realize values that you weren't aware of before. For example, I realized that stability mattered more to me than I thought when I noticed I was doing all these routines as I nomaded, which led me to choose a more semi-nomad or seasonal nomad life. I also realized I like asynchronous work more than I thought, having more flexibility, quiet time, and less anxiety about bad internet connections. So I actually prefer making personal development products more than live coaching. Number 5, make conscious efforts to change the quality of your thoughts to more loving, positive ones. It's okay to still have automatic negative thoughts pop up as you shame yourself, but when you catch yourself doing that, just simply balance it out by saying 1 to 5 kinder ones, ideally 5. Imagine what you'd say to a close friend or family member or someone you love. And if you're equally harsh on them, that may not work. But we often are way harder on ourselves than on others. Number 6, find ways you can rethink about your steps along the way to your goal. Can you reframe them or find something to be genuinely happy or excited about that you hadn't seen or considered previously? For example, if you've been, say, trying to sell your work and no one's buying, why not inject some fun into the process of marketing, talking about it, or describing it? Turn the process itself into a tiny goal in itself, or a kinder one, or focus on something that is in your control, like sharing just 1% more authentically about it, or try to dig up as many ways to talk about it as possible. Another example, I know many people who are really burned out from dating, where you've put in so much effort to get to know someone for months or even years, only to have it go nowhere, or you lose the relationship and you never see them again. What can make that more fun and palatable? How about seeing it as, ooh, I'll make it into a networking or friends finding activity too. I wonder what interesting souls exist out there in the world, or are online on this app, or here or there. And we won't necessarily need to lose contact. Who says that that's a rule? We can be mature adults who stay in touch or appreciate the value we add to each other's lives, even if the romantic part doesn't work out. It's never a waste of time because we never know how connections will evolve, and my current ones aren't guaranteed forever, to be honest. Even if we're married and have kids, that relationship isn't necessarily guaranteed forever either. Number 7, try to expand your window of tolerance for uncertainty. Start with small things, like doing a spontaneous activity or a last-minute plan or booking, or ask someone else to do it for you. Leave some unstructured time in your day where you just go and see what you feel like doing, or just go out, drive, or hop on public transit somewhere and see where it leads you. Do something that scares you or feels risky. Helps you become more flexible and resilient. By the way, sorry, I am in an enclosed room in this Airbnb, but there are the planes passing by overhead. If you can't hear me, please just message me for a transcript or something if you couldn't hear. Anyway, number 8, consider this analogy for life. It's not a race or a journey with a set beginning, middle, or end. It's this giant web and a maze with multiple exits and multiple great paths. You get to choose your own adventure, truly. You get goodies and awesomeness with every single choice, no matter what it is. You simply don't know which path gets you the most. But what if none of them did? They're all equally ripe with different types of gifts and lessons. It's not a 12-course meal, but a buffet, a smorgasbord that you get to choose from. And you have to choose. You can't have them all, at least not all in one lifetime. So by thinking that way, or considering that analogy, does that help take some pressure off of needing to maximize, optimize, or choose the right path? Even if you don't believe this, can you perhaps just take 5 minutes to just consider, if this was the case, that life was a buffet and not a coursed meal, what would change for you, if anything? Would you do something radically different? Pursue something you didn't feel was a worthy enough or acceptable goal? Would it bring out a hidden dream? Or would you let go of a current one? Anyway, that's a lot of food for thought. That concludes today's episode. I hope this helped you start to tease out where in your life that you're overachieving or overly achieving, and to be able to shift it into a healthier, more enjoyable, and sustainable way. If you took the time to answer my questions on this podcast, please share some of your answers with me. I genuinely want to know what they brought up for you, and also how to make this podcast more useful. As always, if you'd like a higher level of support, you're welcome to book a call with me. If we haven't met before, I can offer a free sample coaching session if you think it could be beneficial to you. It'll also include personalized feedback and recommended support and resources. If it's a good fit, we can talk about working together long-term, but if not, I'm happy to support you and point you towards possible next steps in just a single call. I'm also accepting guests on this podcast to share their stories, experiences, and lessons. I'd love to hear from you, particularly if you have questions or differing viewpoints. So let's accept and then achieve. See you next week.